Let's try an experiment using an additive bank loaded up with a bunch of Loris resynthesis analyses that I've created. And what we'll do here is we'll take that additive bank and we'll throw it into a BiqGraph where we can control the main graph components, nodal modes, basically allowing you to get some extra emphasis on some of the harmonics in your analysis. And then we'll also add Offset1 and OFfset2 graphs that we can control. Offset1 will control with just Y, and Offset2 will control with X. And on this BiqGraph, we're going to send in some noise that will apply a envelope to, and this is kind of like what is going on, say, in the Clarinet preset. And the whole thing we will then throw into a low-pass filter, and then through a 10H module, and then to the outputs applying some convolution that will be Y imposed as well. So a pretty simple preset, but we're going to try and make almost anything a wind instrument with this, because the BiqGraph, the way we have it, is going to, by its very nature, create, especially at low bandwidth, wind-like sounds. That will be a combination of our noise that gets treated in that manner and also the input of the analysis bank, whatever we select with our macro controls. And the macro controls here, macro 1 will select what instrument you're using in your current decade. If I want to change to another decade, unlike the Loris overlays in the Loris synth, I have to manually change the decade if I'm just running a standalone preset. Then I have the ability here to have a starting index into the analysis that's chosen, the speed at which you're playing through the analysis, and also an end index, the place in the analysis where you can end. So with these controls, I can isolate any place within an analysis to play, or I can play the whole thing if I want. Then there's a bandwidth control that's placed on the BiqGraph. As I lower that bandwidth, I'm going to create more and more pitched like sounds from my noise, and also it will affect the additive input as well, of course. And then I have a formant processor to bring in the formant on the additive bank for some extra tonal support. So that's the basics of this, but the real nice part of it is I've added an overlay on the Electra One that will allow me to change these graphs with the push of a button. So let's bring up the main graph, and if I press a button on the Electra One, now I have to press again to display that in the editor, you'll see the graph changed. I've programmed 12 main graphs, 12 offset graphs, and 12 Offset2 graphs into the Electra One, and I can change them with a press of a button. Here, let's try another one on the main graph. There I have a descending graph on the odd harmonics, and the even harmonics are all set to minimum. This is the main graph for the Clarinet preset that also uses BiqGraph graphing. All of these use a 48 mode graph. You can set that as noted to other modes, but we're going to use just 48 for this little test. And I have the Clarinet preset, the French sax, the hoop lute, I have Tine, Whirlygigs and Grandfather Clock. They all use 48 node graphing, and I've put all of those in addition to some of the custom ones that I just showed you as well. So I can mix and match these now. Main graph, Offset1 graph, Offset2 graph. I can pick either one from any of the categories and see how it might sound with the input from the analysis bank, with the noise input on the BiqGraph as well. That's going to give me that kind of wind-like sound. So this should turn almost any sound into a wind-like sound, and hopefully we'll get some nice sonic changes when we apply some of our Loris resynthesis analyses to this. You can see here, if I just select Offset1 bank, It's not set anything right now to this preset. There I selected the hoop lute Offset1, and that's what's used there. Let's go to Offset2. There, that's even harmonics going down with odd harmonics in parallel, down a bit in amplitude. So I have all of these patterns that I can use. Let's now go have some fun, bring up some additive analyses, and apply these graphs in different ways to them, and see what kind of different sounds I can get out of this.